Something I'm working on at the moment. I've had these bird boxes languishing in the garden for a while now. A gentleman was making them, starting out, trying to get customers, and they were such a good price that I bought them, knowing that he eventually would be able to keep making them at the price he was making them. So I bought some to put up, and they've sort of just been, as I say, languishing in the garden. But that's what they look like before I do anything. They're really well made for the price he charged. They have gone up since, but they're sort of stained, and that's how they look when they come. And I bought these paints, which are testers, from B&Q. They cost £2 each. They're from their colours range, and it's for outside, garden wood, etc. And I just paint over the stain. This is what I've done so far. I do other colours there. I don't know what they are. I need another one, but that's what the tub comes in. It does have in the cap its own paintbrush, which is, you know, like just to put a blob on the piece that you want to test it and just see the colour. But I find that it needs two tubs to properly coat the boxes. It probably takes about 5 coats, I would say, between 5 and 6 coats, and I use a 1.5 inch brush and a 1 inch brush. I found the 1.5 inch brush is better, and it for some reason uses less of the paint. But yeah, that's what I've done. They're the colours. They're quite funky. They look quite good, I think. I've only painted the bits that are beyond display. I haven't bothered doing that bit. I just left that the stain, and obviously at the back where they'd be against the wall. And I've done the underneath, which you'll see when they're up. But apart from that, that's the only areas I've painted. And that one, as I say, is only got a couple of coats. Still got a whole tub to go on that. But these are actually finished. The colours are, if anyone interested, this is Caterpillar, this is called Coral, and this is Fuchsia. I did consider painting over the brass hinges and asked other people in my family what they thought, and they said that they liked the contrast between the colours and the brass hinges, so I didn't paint them, as you can see. The reason that I've considered painting over them is you can see it used a mixture of different screws. I could actually go and get some different screws and, you know, have so they're all uniform. Some of them are rusted, etc., where they've been sitting outside. I don't think I'll bother changing them to nice sort of brass screws, but it's something you might want to consider if you do it yourself, maybe painting over them. Whether you'd have to sand and rough up the actual hinges, or you could paint that straight over them, I wouldn't know. But yeah, that's something I did consider and decided not to paint over. To protect against predators, the boxes are fitted with a hinge, a latch, let's go with latch, and it will obviously, it's blowing a gale outside, it's tightened right down. This is one that, as I haven't taken off, some of them I have taken off where I painted it, but that lid is secure. It can't be lifted up by predators, it can't be blown out. They'd be nice and secure. So we've been discussing these colours, and to be honest, don't even know whether birds can see in colour, whether they would prefer these natural stained sort of wood over these bright lively colours. I know it may sound a bit harsh, and I don't really want to sound like that to bird lovers, but I don't really care if they don't like the bright colours. I mean, obviously I want them to land and nest in the boxes, but they're on display and I wanted them to look good, basically, rather than be practical first. That was my main priority. I really would, as I say, like the birds to settle in them, and it'd be interesting to see if there's a preference, all things being equal, if they prefer a certain colour over the time that they're up. That would be interesting, because my son, we spoke about the green colour possibly mimicking, you know, like hedges or trees, so that will be interesting. But I'll do a bit of research for the best placements, whether they're better sat in full sun, whether they're in shade they should go. Those things I'll look into. And any sort of links that I find relevant I'll post. And if you perhaps have some input, you could provide a link to a video maybe, that'd be much appreciated. But my first priority, they've got to look good. That's why I went with these and doing all this kind of, that's what I wanted, something that looks striking on the outside of the house over this bland, which I find bland, you might not, wood stain. But that was one of the main motivations to go for these colours. Woohoo, first one in. I want to talk a little bit about box placement, but before I do, I went back and got another colour for this particular bird box, which you saw was the last one remaining out of 4. I counted so that you know there are 12 different colours in this colour range. I don't know them all because I didn't memorise them, but you probably can check them out online. This particular colour is called Waterfall. It's the colour I'm doing the last box in. Probably worth pointing out as well that a tub of this tester paint, when you open it, it approximately comes to the top of that line there. So you're probably looking just over half. And just in case you're wondering why it takes 2 pots for me to completely coat this outside satisfactorily, but that's why, because there's not much paint in it. Right, so while I'm finishing off this last box, I'm going to go over some of the points that I found online about everything bird box orientated, really, as much as I could find out without going over the top, but it is worth looking into, because obviously, for example, I wanted to place these because one of my main interests in getting these bird boxes, obviously I wanted to attract birds. You know, I do like birds, and I would love to see them nesting and watch them going in and out of the boxes. But I wanted to place them on the front of the house because I thought they'd look quite neat decoratively. And the front of the house is south facing, and after reading, it's just going to be too much. I don't want to harm the birds. They recommend a between north and east location away as much that you can shield it away from high winds, driving rain, etc., that sort of thing. So my original place where I had wanted to put them, I've had to abandon. The next place, I have one tree in the garden, and I don't particularly want to put the bird boxes in the tree. I'd never planned that originally. So they're going on the back of the house, which is north facing, but I think it'd be okay there. I've placed the boxes as far as I can away from each other because birds can get quite territorial, and if they're too close together, they might cause friction. They might start fighting. I don't know, or they might just not even bother using the boxes. So yeah, so with that in mind, I place them as far away as I can from each other. I didn't put them up in a tree. I've got one tree, but it probably would look way over the top with 4 boxes in there. I've got sort of feeders and stuff in that tree. And another thing I placed, there's a couple of branches that hang close to the bird boxes, but not too close. So I took that into consideration that a squirrel or possibly a cat, they're not really that mature, the branches, probably support a squirrel but not a cat, couldn't leap across onto the box, but I got them as high as I can, and the lids, you wouldn't get the lid open. Another thing I'm considering is you can get a metal plate. I used to live in Norfolk for a while, and we had a huge garden up there. We put a bird box up. Long story short, something came along and increased the hole. It was in a tree, increased the hole, and I don't know, we either took the eggs or the chicks. It was quite distressing really to see that. So I sort of vowed if I ever do it again, I'm going to put a wire mesh. But apparently there's a metal plate that you can buy, and you obviously get the right size hole, metal plate, and you put it in front or over the hole to stop that happening. Obviously if it's a 28mm hole like this one, you obviously buy a plate with a 28mm hole. But yeah, I am going to look at getting those plates. I'll probably be a bit better. I thought with the wire mesh, it might be a good idea for the birds to kind of, when they're at the hole, they've got something to kind of, I don't know, hold on to. But which leads me on to perches. They recommend against perches. They say, and I have seen a bird birdhouse with a little perch in front of it. They said get rid of it. Birds don't need it. They just need a clear line of flight to and from the box. They don't need any perches. The predators will take advantage of the perches. And it seems, after much reading, the two type of predators I need to think about are cats, which they are not, and as good, you know, as much as cat can surprise you with its agility, they're not going to be able to get straight wall. They're right at the top. They're under the eaves of the house. So the cat couldn't sort of get onto the roof and then down onto the bed. It just wouldn't be able to do it. And that's the only thing I could think it'd get across is something like a squirrel. It doesn't say anything about stoats or weasels or things like that. I'm not sure which is which without looking at the pictures, but I have seen them on the island. I haven't seen them where I live, but I'm pretty sure they're around. Whether they would actually be into attacking the bird box, potentially for the young or the eggs, but yeah. And that's number 3 installed. That's number 1. Number 2. I found slightly differing, not much on height. They recommend between 2 and 4 meters up a tree, and if you haven't got a tree, then against the wall or some sort of other structure, and they recommend facing the box between north and east. I've got mine north facing. Being a tree lover, I know there's some you know, people who really care about our trees. I do, and there are considerations for putting up the bird boxes into a tree, and they say like, obviously, you know, avoid damaging it. Again, the type of screw that you use, they recommend a nylon screw stroke bolt that won't, again, rust, corrode, and, you know, damage the tree. They say one of the better ideas is to use a wire to secure it to the trunk or a branch, but they recommend that you take into consideration that the tree is obviously, well, depending on the type of tree you're putting it in, I suppose, its growth, and, you know, obviously if it's, you've got to allow that it potentially can grow, and if you, it'll either break the fixing, or it'll incorporate it in the trees, kind of thing, grow around it. So that's something to consider. They said avoid putting the boxes too close. Yeah, because it can cause, some birds can be quite territorial, and if they're too close, then there's going to be issues about that. Avoid placing them near high activity areas, something like a bird feeding station, I don't know, bird bath, I don't know, stuff like that where other birds, that can cause disruption and stop the nesting process. I mentioned earlier about the direct flight path. So if you're going to put it up in the tree, that if there's a branch that may potentially grow across and obscure it, they like a nice straight direct path apparently. What else? They putting the boxes up, they recommend, they basically say there is no real wrong time to put a bird box up. They want you to encourage you to do it, to give them as much help as possible. But they say a good time is to put them up in the autumn, because they will discover the box, maybe check it out, maybe one of the sites I went to said they might even store food in it and roost, and then they'll know it's there, they'll have checked it out and come back in the spring to nest. This now, when this is going up today, this is the last box, and it is February the 15th. I don't know, some might think that a bit late, a bit early, I don't know, but I'm putting them up. That's when my last one will be up, this either today, or which is Friday, or it'll go up on the weekend. Yeah, so that was quite interesting. There's no real wrong time to do it, but autumn was a couple of sites said that, try and get it up in the autumn, and that way it's been discovered and checked out. Okay, box number 3 now. And that's it, number 3 securely in place. And not looking too bad. That's number 1, number 2, and number 3 in place. Just broken the seal on the second part and wanted to show you exactly what's in there, where it's filled up to, what I said, that approximately that line there. Testers used to be free, and I know a lot of people used to take advantage of that and grab multiple testers and paint, I don't know, something like this bird box for free. I'm paying £2 for this, and I want that filled. It's like bigwigs had a brainstorming session somewhere and said, look, how can we get back all this lost revenue from these free testers that we've been putting out and people have been taking advantage with? I know, let's not fill the pots right up. Yeah, good idea. And that's what I reckon they're doing. Now I'm paying £2 for these testers. I want that at least to that line, or that upper line. That's a bit of a rip-off, don't you think? It's just turned May, and I want to wrap up this this video now. I've had enough doing it. I want to talk a bit about bird box construction, but before I do, a quick update. We've got blue tits nesting in 2 bird boxes. One is up behind me, and hopefully you'll see the bird pop in and out as I make this, and the other is the green bird box. They've chose the green bird box. I haven't seen any activity in any of the others, and whether there's anything in the green colour, but my guess is that they just chose it because it's opposite the tree. It's a nice straight line from the tree to the bird box. I would also want to just talk quickly that this is my own findings, and I would recommend you do your own research, because I'm certainly no expert on the subject. It's just my own findings, but anyway, this is what I found. This is the recommendations, and I'm just going to go through with my pre-prepared notes and just rattle them off now. Wood is the preferred construction. They said avoid plastic, metal and ceramic, because they can be too hot, too cold, damp. So wood provides the best insulating qualities, it's most cost effective, so basically go with wood. It's the best material. The roof should be sloping with an overhang, and the reason that they recommend this is one, to protect against the elements, the worst of the elements, like driving rain, etc. And the other reason is to make it difficult for predators to sit on top of the box and lie in wait to ambush the birds inside. The roof should be liftable, so that it is cleanable. You can clean it out when it's finished with, ready for the next season, but it must be securable, have some kind of latch, so that it can be secured down and it won't be able to be lifted up by predators or blow up in a storm, etc. The box should have drainage holes, and a definite no-no is a peg or a ledge, and the only things that will make use of a peg or a ledge is a predator. The birds don't need it, they will just fly in and out the box. They don't need anything to stand on in order to do that.
Can I just ask a question that you can edit out? I can't see you anymore. Red light's still flashing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. The bird box should be fixed together using galvanized nails or screws, and this is to stop it falling apart over the years where it rots, etc. When I was planting some trees at the back of the house and got talking to somebody regarding the bird boxes I put up, he told me a sad story about his bird box falling apart with nesting birds in it. And it was a really sad story because they all died. So I would recommend that before you know that birds, you know, the kind of season that they're going to be nesting, is you check, make sure it's up to the job, that it isn't, you know, knackered and needs replacing. So definitely say check the bird box. An interesting one I found, I don't know where I got it from, but it was quite interesting. They said that the hole, the entrance hole, exit hole, should be 125 millimeters up from the floor. And the reason for this is that the curious birds don't go falling out of the bird box before they're ready to fly off. So they recommend 125 millimeters up from the floor of the bird box. Another thing they said is the inside wall, which they climb up, is, if it can be, rough, to allow them to actually scale the inside of the wall and climb out when they're ready. Generally they recommend not to paint or treat the box, to allow natural weathering and to blend into its surroundings. But if you are going to paint it, treat it, then you use a water-based paint that is non-toxic and known to be safe around animals. That's about it really. I'm just going to quickly go over the hole size for the entrance exit. This one is a 25mm hole, and it will attract blue tits, coal and marsh tits. A 28mm hole will attract great tits, tree sparrows and pied flycatchers, and a 32mm hole will attract house sparrows and nutcatchers. And a 45mm hole will attract starlings, and that's something I'm really considering doing. I would like to have some starlings. Don't see many of those around this particular house. And some useful sites just to finish off with that I used was the RSPB, the British Trust for Ornithology, and the Nest Box Company. They were all useful in putting together this video, and that is it. I hope you found it useful, and that's it for now. Right, yeah. Okay, it's turned May, and I want to wrap up this bird box video and finally just talk about bird box construction. But before I do, a quick update. We've got blue tits nesting in 2 boxes. One of them is, if you look behind me, up on the what do you call that?
Veranda. It's just gone in.
And it just went in?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So there's a bird box up behind me, and damn it.
Awning.
Okay.